Hello, and welcome to Improbable Things. I'm J. Grace Pennington, and this is my podcast where I share 6 improbable thoughts before breakfast, which is 6 thoughts about reading, writing, or sometimes about science fiction. So thank you all for joining me this morning, and I am ready to dive in with my 6 things for today. So I wanted to apologize, first of all, for missing last week. You may be able to tell my voice is still a little bit off, and most of last week it was completely gone. I could barely talk above a whisper, and what was above a whisper did not sound so good. And it wasn't a great week to have that happen either, because we had a lot of things going on, places to go, parties to host, just a lot of things where I really needed my voice. But I got through it fine, but I didn't want to subject all of you to my barely there, poor sad voice. So that's why I wasn't able to get something up last week. But thank you for your patience. And even though my voice is not 100% back to its normal self, it is definitely acceptable enough for me to be able to get to this today. Number 1, I had promised to update as to how Humanoid is going, Firmament Humanoid. And how is it going? It's not very much. So I finished, on April 15th, I had finished the 45,000 word goal that I had, and the story wasn't finished yet. I think I estimated it probably needs another 2.5 chapters, something like that. And I just stalled once I got there. I had intended to try to finish it up really quickly, maybe in the next few days, and I definitely just lost momentum, which was my fear, and I've written literally a few sentences since then, and I have it all planned out, but I just kind of lost steam. I'm sure the insane busyness of last week didn't really help, and so I'm not 100% sure what my plan is from here, because I may still just try to finish it slowly alongside my editing of Eleftheria, or I may wait until I'm done, but I definitely don't want to wait a year or more to finish it like I did with the draft of Eleftheria. I definitely want to get to it sooner than later, so we'll see how that goes, but it will be really nice when I have it finished and can just set it aside for a while. So number 2, when it comes to the editing on Eleftheria and how that's going, it is going, although much more slowly than I would like or had planned. So I got it printed out, got it in a binder, got my red pencil sharpened, and I have been going at it with my markings and notes and things that I will need to rewrite it. But I am just having a really hard time getting through it, if I'm being honest. We will see as far as the deadline I had in mind, but the thankful thing is I'm not tied to this deadline. I'm definitely, Lord willing, getting it out this summer. But there's a possibility it could be more toward the middle than the beginning of the summer, because it has just been a struggle. I'll get to this more a little bit later on one of the later thoughts, but it has just been a struggle lately to be motivated to do a lot of things, and so, I'm slugging through it, but a lot of times it just is not, I'm not having the mental capacity to get as much of it done as I would like, but I am working on it daily. I have gotten through the first few chapters, so I would like to finish marking it up this month, but since there's 2 days left in this month, that very well may not happen, but it shouldn't take too long. I am definitely getting through it. It's just not at the rapid speed that I would prefer, but I think it's going well. I do think I think I've mentioned, it's going to need less work than I was thinking. There are only a couple of kind of major things that I need to rework. The rest of it is really minor, editing type stuff. A lot of things where I just need to increase the feel of the setting and of the ambience. And just a lot of things that are worded awkwardly, words that are repeated too often, things like that, really easy stuff. So I don't think the actual rewriting process is going to be that intensive, which is good. So number 3, I wanted to talk about my website. So it's been down. If you've tried to visit jgracepennington.com, you would notice my beautiful website is not there. And apparently what has happened is I didn't get a reminder to renew my domain, and so I didn't, and it expired. But they give you like a grace period after it expires to go in and renew it, but I cannot figure out how to access it. Like, I cannot log in to the place where I purchased it. I just can't figure out how to access. I'm like, all I want to do is pay for this thing. So I contacted some customer service, haven't heard back. I'm going to try to, I guess, call them. I hate making phone calls, but obviously I need to resolve this. So that's been really frustrating because I've wanted to keep going with my mini reviews of the books that I read last year. But apparently I can't do that. So obviously with no website, I can't blog. So it's just, I really hate this kind of technical difficulties because I don't understand all this technical stuff. So when it needs to be fixed, I don't know how to do that. But hopefully I can get someone helpful in customer service sometime soon, get my gorgeous site back, and get back on those reviews and maybe some other posts. Number 4, I mentioned that I've been using my red pencil, marking up the manuscript of Eleftheria, and Violet, my 3-year-old, she's been watching me a lot. She likes to watch whatever I do, but she'll see that I'm doing it. She runs over and she always goes, "You have your special red pencil?" And she's like, "I want to watch you." And she just sits there and watches and tries to ask me questions about it, which probably is partly why I can't focus as much as I would like on it. But it's really cute, and it just really also makes me look forward to the time that I can read her my books, because, once she gets quite a bit older, because they're really more for like, I would say like pre-teens at the youngest. But someday I really want to read them to her and share them with her, and I think that'll be such a fun time because I already, like I've mentioned, enjoy reading to my girls, and so being able to tell them my own stories one day is just such an exciting thought to me. But already the fact that she's interested in watching, and she loves to write words and spell words, and so I'm thinking maybe there'll be some interest there in writing for her. We'll see. Maybe she'll be interested in something completely different, but she does love to just write words, and I wrote my first story when I was 4 years old. So we'll see if she's on that trajectory or not, but either way, she's interested in what mommy's doing, and I think that's super sweet. So number 5 on my currently reading, I'm reading the 3rd book in the Mysterious Benedict Society series. This one's called The Prisoner's Dilemma, and I've really been enjoying it. I've been enjoying this series a lot. I read the first 2 a little bit earlier in the year, and I don't know if there's more. I think there's maybe a couple like bonus books, but I don't really remember how many. Maybe there's 4 in the series, but I know there's not a ton beyond this one. But I've been enjoying them a lot, and one thing I've noticed is just how much the tone of the book contributes to your experience of it and to how you see it, how you perceive the story. Because, I mean, this series, it's very, what's the word? I mean, it's not fantasy, but it's certainly fantastical in certain ways. There's a lot of things that are certainly not really believable, but that's the thing, is that they're not really meant to be. Like, it's meant to have, it has this kind of almost a magical realism vibe to it, even though there's no magic or anything in it, but it just definitely has this sort of, I'm trying to think how to explain it, but it's like the things that happen in it are not believable, but they're kind of not meant to be, and you're helped in your suspension of disbelief by the tone of the story, which just doesn't take itself too seriously. Like, it goes for the humor. It knows that it's about children and it's written to children, but I think that's also why it's enjoyable to adults, is that it's not like talking down or taking itself too seriously, but it's saying like, this is sort of a fantastic story and we can go on sort of a fantastic ride together through it. And I am interested in learning how to do that. Just like I said, I'm interested in doing children's books one day. And I've also been reading another Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle book to my children, and there is magic in those, but it also is kind of the same. Like, it's not only fantastical and sort of like unbelievable like plot points, but just the whole style of the story contributes to that. Like the names in the Mrs. Pigwiggle are really funny, and the same goes for Mysterious Benedict Society. Like there's a pair, a boy and a girl that are sort of henchmen or hench people of the bad guy in Mysterious Benedict Society, and their names are Jackson and Jillson, which of course I find super funny. And just yesterday I was reading Mrs. Pigwiggle, and literally the father of the child in the story, the father's name was Forthright semicolon. And I was just cracking up at that. And so that just helps you know that you're not supposed to take this story too seriously. You're just supposed to be along for a fun ride and a humorous ride, and you're just supposed to enjoy it. You're not supposed to, it's not supposed to be, insanely super deep, although there definitely is a lot of depth to Mysterious Benedict Society in a certain way. It sets the tone right away with just how it names characters, how it communicates things, like just the style and the setting are just sort of like quirky. And so I definitely think in any kind of story, the setting and tone just contribute so much to whatever genre it is. Like, for instance, I just read a bunch of Stephen King, and while those stories I read were not necessarily really horror stories, they did have horror elements to them, and I'm sure his other books are even more like that. But in the horror genre, you're going to have that. You're not just going to have horrifying supernatural things happening, but you're going to have this sort of like dark and disturbing just tone, and just like a heaviness to the words and to the places, because everything, setting and all of that needs to contribute to the kind of story that you're telling. So anyway, all that to say, reading Mysterious Benedict Society and The Prisoner's Dilemma, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm enjoying this series a lot. So number 6 on my just little ramble for the day, I mentioned earlier that I am having a hard time being motivated with both my writing and my editing, and I'm actually having a lot of trouble being motivated for pretty much anything at all these days, because I am kind of in a little season, a wave, whatever you want to call it, of depression. I'm sure I've mentioned before, I know I've mentioned it in various places over the years, I do struggle with depression, have for most of my life. But one, I don't know if nice thing is the right way to say it, but one thing that has helped about having struggled with it for so long is that I have, learned a lot about myself and about how it affects me and how to recognize it and ways that I can cope and deal with it in a healthy way and all of that. And so one thing I've really come to learn the past few years is how to recognize a wave of it kind of coming on, and a few things that I'm going to have to deal with during that, and just healthier ways to deal with it than I used to. And so one thing that happens is that I do tend to lose motivation and stop enjoying things that I normally enjoy. So basically, when I'm kind of like hit with a wave of it, I won't enjoy any of my normally favorite hobbies. Like, I don't want to write. I don't really want to read as much. I don't want to even like crochet or color, or just the things that I normally enjoy. I don't want to do. I don't have like desire or motivation to do. Basically, I mostly just want to sleep. And obviously I can't do that. But I have learned that it's just best to prioritize which things I really need to push through on and which things need to kind of just go on the back burner until it passes, because it does always pass. And so obviously for me as a mom, my kids and my family are going to be the main priority in my home and all of that. So just taking care of the kids in the house and everything, already that takes a lot of energy, but when I am going through kind of like a season of depression, it takes even more. And so if I'm going to use my energy on something, it's going to be on that first and foremost. And so normally by the time I get to nap time or after bedtime or whatever, it's just really difficult, especially for something creative like writing, where you really do need a lot of mental energy. It's very, very difficult. And especially when you don't feel like doing it and it's difficult and like you're tired, like it's hard. And so I'm still trying to find that balance between when to push through and when to just let things go, and just to continue to learn how to work with myself during this time and not against myself. And so it's really important to me to not let go of the things that that are important to me and that I do enjoy during this time. And so, I still am pushing myself to do things like crochet and like read, because those don't take as much energy. But with writing, it's just a little bit harder to find where it fits into this. And so I am, like I said, doing a little bit every day, because I feel like one of the more important things is not to lose momentum before I get back that energy. So I am pushing through doing it, but I'm also just aware that, especially in this season of life where, like I said, I do have to expend most of my energy on my kids, I have to be aware that I need to be a little bit flexible. So as I said, maybe my initial goal for a release date is just not what's going to be plausible for me right now, and not what's going to be best for my family, because what's best for them is always going to come first. So I am working on my books, I am working on my editing, but I think I just need to give myself some grace in letting it go a little bit slower than I would like. And that's really hard for me, because I tend to be very hard and fast goals, very black and white. I really like to feel productive. And so it's hard when I feel like I'm not meeting my goals. But then I'm having to learn that sometimes that there's a time to reevaluate my goals, and that doesn't mean that I'm giving up. It just